I didn't suspect anything when my hair started falling out in the shower, handfuls of it, clinging to my fingers like dark wet spiders. How could I? I simply told myself it was stress. Work deadlines, a startup, you know how it is. Or maybe this was a vitamin deficiency. My diet wasn't exactly perfect, fueled by caffeine and ambition. Just something simple, mundane, I mean, what else could it be? That's what I kept telling myself, even when the annoying stomach cramps began. Not just a dull ache, but a gnawing, twisting sensation that would seize me unexpectedly. Then came the dizzy spells. Not just lightheadedness, but sudden disorienting blackouts where the world would tilt violently and I'll have to grip a wall or a chair, anything to stay upright. They became so frequent, so debilitating that I actually had to sit down to tie my own shoelaces. A simple everyday task became a monumental effort, a humiliating acknowledgement of my own fading control. Oh, and the memory loss. It started with small things like misplacing my keys, forgetting an item at the grocery store. Then it escalated to where I parked my car, even in my own familiar garage. Whether I'd eaten breakfast or lunch, people's names I'd known for years, colleagues I'd shared triumphs and failures with. Their faces would be clear, but their names just gone. Like a blank space where familiarity used to reside. I had built a tech company from the ground up, lived and breathed every byte and line of code. It demanded everything, so it kind of made sense that my body and mind were protesting, right? But the truth, the horrifying, soul shattering truth that slowly dawned on me piece by piece, I was being murdered. Slowly, quietly, carefully, and the one who held the spoon, the one meticulously administering this slow, agonizing death, was my own wife. Welcome to Still Talking Tales, where we inspire you on the go. Now hit that subscribe button and let's dive in. Her name was Vanessa. We met 12 years ago at a mutual friend's engagement party. I remember seeing her across the crowded room, bathed in the soft glow of fairy lights, and everything else just, faded. She was absolutely breathtaking. Her hair, a cascade of deep chestnut waves, her eyes, a vibrant, intelligent green that seemed to hold both mischief and profound warmth. She moved with an effortless grace, and her laugh, it was like a melodic chime that drew everyone in. She was the kind of woman who made every man turn his head when she walked into a room. And guess what? She was looking right at me. Our first conversation felt electric, like we'd known each other for a lifetime. We talked for hours, oblivious to the party around us. We discovered a shared love for classic jazz, obscure independent films, and a mutual disdain for overly sweet cocktails. It felt almost immediately like destiny. We were the picture perfect couple, at least that's what we presented to outsiders. And for a long time, for me, it was perfect. She was my home, my calm, my person. She understood my ambitions, my quirks, my late night coding binges, fueled by cheap coffee. She was the anchor in my very chaotic, driven world. The first 5 years of our marriage were a dream. Seriously, the kind of love story you see in movies, but you never truly believe can happen to you. She supported my startup ambitions with unwavering belief, even when I was practically living on ramen noodles and sleeping 3 hours a night. She handled our home with an efficiency that amazed me, turning our small apartment into a sanctuary. She smiled through my stress filled late nights, often bringing me a warm mug of tea or a shoulder to lean on when the pressure became too much. She was there when I needed her, always, or so I believed. Until I made it. Yes, you heard me right. Until the money started rolling in. Not just a little, but a torrent. A life changing generational wealth kind of money. It was the combination of years of relentless work, sacrificing weekends, holidays, even my own health. There were so many moments I thought about giving up, about throwing in the towel, God knows. But I pushed through, driven by a vision, by the belief that I was building something truly innovative. And then one glorious, terrifying day, I sold my tech company for $11.2 million. The feeling was indescribable: exhilaration, relief, a dizzying sense of accomplishment. I remember calling Vanessa, her squeals of delight echoing through the phone, the promise of a future without financial worries stretching out before us like an endless horizon. I thought this was our shared victory, the reward for all our collective sacrifices. That's when Vanessa changed. Subtly at first, so subtle in fact that I almost missed it. Or perhaps I chose to miss it, blinded by the glow of our new prosperity. Designer bags began replacing our modest clutches. Not just one or two, but a collection, each one costing far more than my first car. She developed a taste for exotic vacations, not just a weekend getaway, but week long excursions to Bali, Santorini, Dubai, each destination more extravagant than the last. At first, I indulged her. Of course, I did. After all, she stuck with me through the grind, through the lean years, through the endless stress of building a business. She deserved it, right? She deserved every luxury, every pampering experience. I truly believe that. But then a quiet alarm began to sound in the back of my mind. It was her eyes. They started to look different, not always, but in certain moments. A fleeting glance when I discussed investment portfolios or whenever a large sum of money hit our accounts. Colder, calculating, a glint that I hadn't seen before. Well, I dismissed it as my own paranoia, a side effect of the high stakes world I now lived in. And then one night, the veil began to lift. We had just returned from a trip and I was looking for a receipt for a new piece of art we had purchased. Vanessa had this habit of tucking away important documents into a small antique wooden drawer in her vanity. I opened it, rifled through some old bills and bank statements, and then my finger brushed against a thick, official looking envelope. It wasn't a receipt, it was an insurance envelope. My name was clearly written on it. I pulled it out, my heart giving a sudden uncomfortable lurch. A $3 million life insurance policy on my life, with her listed as the sole beneficiary. My blood ran cold. I don't remember signing anything like that. I sat there, the crisp paper feeling heavy in my hands, a cold dread seeping into my bones. Why hadn't she mentioned this? Why hadn't I been informed? When I confronted her later that evening, her reaction was unnervingly calm, too calm. She just smiled, a sweet practiced smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, babe," she said, waving a dismissive hand. "That's the one your assistant had you sign after the sale, remember? Just business protection stuff." The lawyer said it was totally normal, standard procedure for new executives. "Don't you remember all those documents? You were signing hundreds of pages." Well, I did remember something like that. A flurry of quick signatures during a chaotic phone call with my lawyer, juggling multiple screens, trying to close a crucial deal. I hadn't read it, not properly at least. I had trusted them, I had trusted her, and in my state of exhaustion and wanting to believe her, I let it go. I allowed her practiced ease, a gentle chiding, to suit the burgeoning fear. Biggest mistake of my life. After the insurance policy incident, a switch flipped. Or perhaps the poison reached a new, more aggressive stage. The symptoms worsened rapidly. Hair loss turned into shocking bald patches that appeared overnight, revealing pale scalp beneath. My weight dropped drastically, not just a few pounds, but a skeletal transformation. My clothes hung on me. My bones protruded. My hands that were once steady, capable, trembled uncontrollably, making it difficult to even hold a coffee cup without spilling. And then the blackout started. They were terrifying. Once I collapsed during a Zoom meeting, my head hitting the desk with a sickening thud. I woke up to frantic voices on the call, my assistant asking if I was okay, my head throbbing. Another time I woke up on the kitchen floor, the taste of blood in my mouth, a dull ache in my jaw, and a fresh cut on my chin from the fall. I had no memory whatsoever of how I got there. The fear that I was losing my mind, my body, my very self became a constant nagging companion. Vanessa's response to all of this: "Babe, come on, maybe you're just burning out. You need to rest." She would say it with such genuine concern in her voice, such a gentle touch on my forehead that for a time I almost believed her. She became my primary caregiver. She began preparing all my meals. No more ordering takeout for me, no more impromptu sandwiches. Every meal carefully crafted by her. She brought me specially blended smoothies filled with vitamins and energy boosters. She insisted on giving me various supplements, tiny pills and capsules that promised to boost my immunity or aid my digestion. And most critically, she took over my daily medications, sorting them into a pill organizer, reminding me of when to take them, and even bringing them to me with a glass of water. Come on, I felt loved and increasingly, terrifyingly controlled. My world, once expansive and limitless, began to shrink, centered entirely on our care, our schedule, our explanations. Well, the truth gnawed at me. The coincidence of the insurance policy, the rapid decline of my health, our unwavering insistence on controlling my intake. Damn, it was too much. The paranoia, which I'd fought so hard to dismiss, began to feel less like madness and more like a terrifying clarity. So I did what every paranoid rich man does. I hired a private investigator. I know it feels like a cliche move straight out of a B movie, but I was desperate. I needed answers. His name was Trent. I found him through a discreet referral. He was a former detective with a reputation for being meticulous, sharp, and utterly silent. He had eyes that seemed to see through walls and a quiet confidence that was reassuring. Our first meeting was clandestine. I chose a nondescript coffee shop on the outskirts of the city at an odd hour. I felt a pang of shame even vocalizing my suspicions. I need you to look into my wife, I'd said, the words feeling foreign and heavy on my tongue. Well, not because I truly believe she's harming me, I quickly added, still clinging to a thread of hope, but because I have to rule it out, for my own peace of mind. Trent simply nodded, his expression unreadable, and asked for details. I gave him everything I had: the escalating symptoms, the insurance policy, the unsettling attentiveness. For 2 whole weeks, I lived in a purgatory of anxiety. Every phone call made my heart leap. Every strange look from Vanessa sent chill down my spine. I desperately wanted Trent to come back with nothing, to tell me my fears were unfounded, that I was simply overworked and delusional. 2 weeks later, Trent returned. His face was grim, unreadable. But I knew. I knew before he even opened his mouth. We met in a secure, soundproofed room in his office building. He laid out a stack of photos on the table between us. My hand trembled as I reached for the first one. It shattered everything. My life, my love, my trust, just gone. It wasn't just photos, it was a dossier. Vanessa was having an affair. My stomach lurched. But before I could process that, Trent pointed to the man in the pictures. It was our family doctor, Dr. Mason, the same man who'd been treating my symptoms, the one who'd prescribed all my recent medications, the one I trusted with my well being, my life, my health, the one that had brought my deepest fears to seeking his medical expertise. They weren't just sleeping together, obviously. They were laughing over drinks at a secluded rooftop bar, their heads close, intimate, holding hands as they strode through a park, looking like teenagers in love. Sharing hotel rooms booked under fake names, confirmed by discreet checking of hotel records. Their body language screamed complicity, a shared secret, a deep illicit bond. And the kicker, Trent had traced their activities. They'd been seeing each other for nearly a whole year. While I was slowly dying in my own home, consumed by a mysterious illness, they were plotting my demise. Trent then slid a series of printouts across the table. We also recovered this from a burner phone, he said, his voice low. One Vanessa kept hidden in her gym bag. It was meticulous work, but we got in. My eyes scanned the screen captures, messages between them. My blood ran cold, turning to ice in my veins. It's fading faster now. A few more weeks and it will look natural. Once the insurance clears, we vanish. Make sure he doesn't see another doctor. We are too close. Each word a dagger, not just into my heart, but into my very soul. He's fading faster now. They were discussing my slow agonizing death as if it were a scientific experiment. Once the insurance clears, we vanish. What? My life reduced to a transaction? Make sure he doesn't see another doctor. Well, obviously, because another doctor would have found the poisons in my blood. They were covering their tracks, building a perfect medical narrative for my natural death. I sat alone in my study holding the pictures and the printouts. My entire world crumbling around me. I wasn't shaking from fear anymore. I was shaking from pure, unadulterated rage. A cold, quiet fury that settled deep in my bones. She didn't just want me dead. She wanted me gone for money. And for this man, this doctor who had taken an oath to heal, who was instead systematically destroying me, the ultimate betrayer, a betrayer of love, of trust, of the sanctity of life itself. And I was giving her the perfect setup. I was literally drinking her poison, believing it was love. But if she thought I was going to die quietly, fade into obscurity, become a footnote in her new opulent life, and she didn't know who she was married to. The immediate aftermath of that discovery was a blow of controlled chaos. The fear was still there, a constant companion, but it was overshadowed by a burning desire for justice. Not revenge, not exactly, justice. For the innocent man I was, for the betrayal she had inflicted, for the life she tried to steal. What was my first act? I stopped taking the smoothies. Not a single drop. I stopped swallowing the supplements. It took immense willpower, incredible presence of mind. When my body was screaming for relief from the symptoms, I hid them in napkins, behind the toilet tank, anywhere. I became a master of deception in my own home. If she brought me a smoothie, I would pretend to sip it, then discreetly pour it down the sink when she left the room. If she offered pills, I would pop them into my mouth, then palm them and stash them in a small discreet pocket I sewed into my bathrobe. I started acting sicker, weaker, a deliberate performance. I exaggerated my slurred words, stumbled more frequently around the house, pretended to forget more crucial details. I even started to make hands tremble more noticeably. It was a horrifying act, forcing my body to mimic the very decline I was fighting, but it was essential. I needed them to feel secure, to become complacent. Vanessa, true to form, doubled down. Seeing my worsening condition, she became even more attentive. She started grinding pills into my soups, disguising them in richer broth. And then the ultimate violation. She even tried to give me injections for strength. She claimed B12, iron, whatever Dr. Mason prescribed. I allowed her to, enduring the prick of the needle, knowing each injection was more damning evidence. The thought of what those injections contained pumped directly into my veins was nauseating, but I played along. Every tremor, every cough, every stumble was a calculated move in my desperate game. But I wasn't just playing along, I was planning meticulously. With Trent's help, we transformed my house into a surveillance hub. We installed tiny high definition hidden cameras in the kitchen, specifically pointed at the counter where she'd prepared my meals. We placed microphones under the bed, in the living room, in my study. We bugged the landline phone, and Trent even managed to set up a system to mirror her burner phone calls and text directly to a secure server. I wanted every whisper, every gesture, every incriminating detail captured. I also had a friend at a specialized forensics lab. He was initially hesitant, given the delicate nature of my request, but once I explained, without revealing too much, that my life hanged in the balance, that my life actually depended on it, he agreed to analyze the samples of my meals. Trent would collect them from the trash, or I would discreetly save a small portion of a meal she had just prepared. The results were terrifying, undeniable. Arsenic, lithium in abnormal doses, and a rare muscle relaxant, typically used in veterinary medicine, that in humans mimic the symptoms of advanced ALS or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. It caused muscle weakness, tremors, slurred speech, and ultimately respiratory failure. It was genius and utterly evil. She was building a perfect medical narrative for when I passed peacefully in my sleep and from what would appear to be a debilitating neurological disease. I was days, perhaps even hours, away from becoming a tragic headline, but instead, I became her reckoning. One evening, I told Vanessa I drafted my will. I let a casual, almost defeated sigh escape my lips. Just tidying things up, I said, looking out the window. With everything that had been happening, it just feels like the responsible thing to do. She looked thrilled. In fact, too thrilled. A flash of something cold and eager in her eyes that sent a shiver down my spine, even as it confirmed my suspicions. I told her I wanted a relaxing evening, just us. One last intimate night, I implied. A steak dinner, red wine, one of our favorite jazz records spinning softly on the turntable. A Miles Davis classic, perhaps. The irony was palpable. I was setting the stage for her downfall, meticulously crafting the last supper of her freedom. She cooked. She served me with the same sweet, loving smile she always used. The smile that had fooled me for years. The smile that masked a killer. She placed my plate before me, the aroma of seared steak and roasted vegetables filling the air. She poured us both a generous glass of that expensive Cabernet, a favorite. To us, darling, she poured, raising her glass. To us, I echoed, my voice a little hoarse from the deliberate feigned weakness. But my eyes, I knew, were burning with an intensity she couldn't see, an intensity I had meticulously hidden for weeks. She stepped away for a moment, perhaps to fetch a side dish from the kitchen. That was my window. In one swift, practiced motion, I swapped our glasses. The one she had poured for me, laced with whatever new concoction Dr. Mason had advised, now sat before her. My poison glass was now in her hands, and I just sat there waiting. We sat down, the jazz played softly. The clinking of cutlery on china was the only sound for a few moments. I watched her casually as she took a deep gulp of her wine, then another. I ate only the plain vegetables on my plate, carefully avoiding the stick she had served me. I observed the subtle changes in her expression, the slight drooping of her eyelids after her second glass. The wine, combined with whatever she had intended for me, was working faster than even I anticipated. Her movements became a little slower, her smile a little hazier. When she grew woozy, her head lolling slightly, her gaze unfocused, that's when I triggered the confrontation. There was no theatrical preamble, just a cold, hard statement. I know what you've been doing, Vanessa. Her head snapped up. A flicker of something, confusion, then panic, crossing her face. She blinked, tried to focus on me, her smile returning, but this time it was forced, flimsy. What are you talking about, baby? Her voice was slurred, but she tried to maintain the saccharine tone. The arsenic, the lithium, the muscle relaxant, the doctor, the burner phone, the $3 million life insurance policy that I never signed for. My voice was calm, controlled, utterly devoid of emotion. It was a hammer blow for each revelation. The smile vanished completely, replaced by something primal. Cold steel returned to her eyes, sharpened by the drugs coursing through her veins. But she stayed silent, trapped. I pushed back my chair slowly, deliberately. I walked over to a sideboard and picked up a small, innocuous looking tablet. Her eyes widened, a dawning horror creeping into them. I tapped the screen. The hidden camera footage flickered to life. She watched, mesmerized and horrified, as the screen displayed her just days ago, carefully adding a fine powder to my soup. Then footage of her whispering to Dr. Mason over the phone, her voice low and conspiratorial about how close they were to being free. Then the text messages, blown up for clarity, flashing across the screen. He's fading faster now. A few more weeks and it will look natural. She stood slowly, pushing her chair back with a scrape, backing away from the table, her eyes darting around the room, searching for an escape. You don't understand, she began, her voice hoarse, desperate. Oh, I perfectly understand. I cut her off, my voice rising slightly, the years of suppressed anger finally finding an outlet. You wanted me dead, for money, and for him. I gestured vaguely in the direction of the screen, where a frame of her laughing intimately with Dr. Mason lingered. Then came the twist she didn't expect. The true devastating blow that would ensure her downfall. And you're not the only one watching this, Vanessa. I held up my phone, which was connected to the tablet. I'm not just confronting you, I'm recording it live, streaming it live to a private YouTube link I'd shared moments ago with a journalist friend, an editor at a major national newspaper, and two of the sharpest lawyers in the state. Our face went ashen. Our eyes darted from the tablet to the phone, a look of abject terror flooding them. Everything has been backed up by continued. My voice unwavering, relentless, sent to three different sources stored in the cloud. Physical copies of the evidence, the lab reports, the photos, the bona phone data are already with the authorities. So, if anything happens to me, Vanessa, you will still be caught. There is no escape. This isn't just about us anymore. This is about justice. She froze. Her eyes were wild, cornered. For a split second, I saw the mask completely crack, revealing a raw, calculating fury underneath the fear. Then she broke. She ran to the front door, but it was too late. As her hands reached for the doorknob, it turned from the outside. Police were already waiting. You see, I had already called them 10 minutes before the dinner, not to report a domestic dispute, but to report a confession. My own confession, a planned murder, with evidence. I told them I had a recording of the perpetrators confessing and they listened. For the very first time, they really listened. The reporter had already alerted them to the potential explosive nature of my story. The living room filled with uniforms. Vanessa let out a choked cry, stumbling back. She was arrested, screaming, kicking, pleading. He's sick. He's delusional. He's poisoning himself. Her words were hollow, pathetic, falling on deaf ears. They read her rights. The handcuffs clicked shut, cold and final. She's now serving 25 years to life. Dr. Mason lost his medical license and is facing trial for conspiracy to commit murder, facing an equally bleak future. His oath, his career, his freedom, all sacrificed for greed and a twisted affair. And me, well, I'm healing. Slowly, physically, I'm recovering with the help of a team of dedicated detox specialists and therapists. It's a long, arduous process to rid my body of all the lingering poisons, to repair the damage to my organs, to regain the strength and neurological function that was systematically stripped away. My hair is growing back, although slowly. My hands are steady now. I can walk without stumbling. Every day is a step forward, a reclaiming of my body, a defiance of a dark design. Emotionally, though, that's another story entirely. That wound runs far deeper because the hardest part isn't the poisoning or the physical agony or even the chilling calculated betrayal. It's knowing the woman I shared my life with, the woman I loved, the woman who was my home and my person, looked at me, her husband, and saw only a payday, a means to an end. She didn't just break my heart, she tried to bury it, to literally bury me. But I outlived her plot, and now I tell my story not for pity, never for pity, but for warning. Because love, when twisted by greed, by avarice, by a hunger for something it hasn't earned, becomes poison, and sometimes literally.